Sophie wasn't like other kids in her small town. At 16, while her classmates obsessed over social media and school gossip, Sophie spent her time tinkering with machines in her dad's old garage. Her father, an engineer who had passed away when Sophie was just 10, left behind more than just a toolbox. He left his dream of unraveling the mysteries of time. Sophie grew up hearing bedtime stories of time travelers, parallel worlds, and the possibility of stepping into the past or future. Her favorite memory was the day he said, "If you can imagine it, Sophie, you can build it. Even time itself can be shaped by the hands of a dreamer." After his death, Sophie became obsessed with carrying on his work. For years, she pored over his blueprints, scavenging parts from junkyards, dumpsters, and second-hand shops. By the time she turned 16, she had built a prototype, a machine she believed could warp time. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. One stormy night, while lightning illuminated the dark sky outside, Sophie decided to test her invention. She had connected a portable remote to the machine so it could create a temporary time bubble, a gateway to another time period. Her heart raced as she flipped the switch. The machine roared to life, humming with an otherworldly energy. Sparks flew. The lights flickered, and a swirling portal began to form, a shimmering gateway of blues and silvers. Sophie couldn't believe her eyes. She had done it. She had bent time. But as she leaned closer, the machine began to overload. The portal flickered violently, pulling in everything around it. Books, tools, and papers were sucked into the vortex. Sophie tried to turn it off, but it was too late. A burst of energy knocked her off her feet, and before she could scream, she was pulled into the swirling void. When Sophie opened her eyes, she was lying on soft moss, the ground damp beneath her. She squinted against the bright sunlight, filtering through enormous fern-like trees. The air was thick and humid, buzzing with the sounds of strange creatures. As she sat up, she realized this wasn't her world. In the distance, she saw a herd of Triceratops grazing near a shimmering lake. Towering above the trees, long-necked Brachiosaurus moved gracefully, their heads brushing the clouds. Her heart pounded. I'm in the past. The Cretaceous period, she thought, recognizing the prehistoric animals from her books. But her awe was short-lived. She reached into her pocket and found the remote, her key to returning home. It was cracked, its wires exposed and sparking. No, she muttered, frantically trying to fix it. But it was clear she needed tools and materials, things that didn't exist in this world. She wasn't just stranded in the age of dinosaurs, she was completely alone. Days turned into weeks. Sophie had to adapt quickly to survive. She fashioned tools from sharp rocks and sturdy vines. She built a small shelter in the hollow of a tree, high above the ground, safe from predators. She learned to move quietly through the jungle, watching the behavior of the dinosaurs. The herbivores were generally peaceful, but the predators, Velociraptors and Tyrannosaurs, were a constant threat. One day, while exploring a rocky ridge, Sophie discovered a vein of metallic ore near a steaming volcanic river. She realized this material could help her repair the time machine remote. Gathering it wasn't easy. The volcanic heat was intense, and the area was teeming with aggressive creatures. But Sophie's determination kept her going. She scavenged, crafted, and slowly began piecing the device back together. Just as she was about to complete the repair, disaster struck. A thunderous roar echoed through the jungle, shaking the ground beneath her feet. Sophie turned to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex charging through the trees, its massive jaws snapping. It had caught her scent. Heart pounding, she grabbed the half-fixed device and ran, zigzagging through the dense forest. The Tyrannosaurus Rex gave chase, its enormous strides closing the distance quickly. Sophie's lungs burned as she sprinted towards a cliff's edge, hoping to find a way out. When she reached the top, she had no choice but to stop. Below was a sheer drop into a river. The Tyrannosaurus Rex closed in, its eyes locked on her. Desperate, Sophie knelt and connected the final wires of her device. The portal flickered to life, glowing brightly. As the Tyrannosaurus Rex lunged, jaws wide, Sophie leapt into the portal. She felt the heat of its breath and the rush of air as its teeth snapped shut just inches away from her. When Sophie landed, it wasn't on moss or dirt. It was the familiar hardwood floor of her garage. She gasped, clutching the now deactivated remote. She was back. Her hands trembled as she looked around the room, still littered with books and tools. She had survived the most dangerous period in Earth's history. But as she stared at her time machine, a mix of fear and pride washed over her. She realized how reckless she had been, but also how strong and resourceful she had become. Sophie locked the time machine away, vowing never to use it again. But deep down, she knew that her adventure wasn't just about survival. It was about discovering who she was. She was more than her father's daughter. She was a dreamer, an inventor, and a survivor. And though she promised herself she'd never travel through time again, a part of her couldn't help but wonder, what's next? What would you do if you found yourself in Sophie's shoes? Could you survive in a world ruled by dinosaurs? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more thrilling adventures.